Welcome everyone to the Insurance Perspectives podcast. I'm looking forward today to the discussion with Megan Ashmead Pacella and Kim Ashmead Leyens of the Ashmead Insurance Associates. Megan and Kim, welcome to the show. Thanks for being here.
Thanks for having us.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, looking forward to this kind of continued discussion on family dynamics. We've had some really good conversations so far. Looking forward to the sister relationship inside the agency. Megan is the co-managing principal at Ashmead and has been with the agency for just under 12 years. She is continuing a family legacy that began more than 60 years ago when her grandfather founded the agency. Before joining the agency, she worked as a contact center manager for a nonprofit organization in Philadelphia. Outside of work, Megan enjoys spending time with her husband, their 2 daughters, and their dog, preferably down the shore on a sunny day.
And I have to add one son to that list.
Oh my goodness.
Since whenever's the last time I submitted it, I don't know, but we have 3 kids.
Sorry,
now.
3 kids.
No, don't be sorry. It's all good.
You also enjoy spending time with your son. Kim has been a commercial personal insurance producer at Ashmead for just over 3 years. She is a Penn State graduate with a degree in advertising and public relations, bringing a strong background in data analytics, operations, and management. Before joining Ashmead, Kim served as an e-commerce operations manager at Essity.
Mm-hmm.
Is that right? Okay. Optimizing manufacturing and distribution logistics through data-driven insights. Thank you both again for joining us. First, we'll start with you, Megan. Tell us about Ashmead Insurance Associates.
Like you mentioned, our grandfather, who actually just passed away this past October at the age of 98. He started the agency in 1957. So I actually just realized we're going to be coming up on like our 70th anniversary next year. So we're going to have to do something big. So he started it out of his little tiny apartment in Bryn Mawr, Pennsylvania, with my grandmother by his side, and grew it from there. And I guess almost 40 years ago, our dad, Bill Ashmead, joined him as a commercial lines producer at the time, and ultimately joined in on the ownership. And about 25 years ago, our mom, Janine, joined our dad, Bill, and together they ran the agency for about 20 years before last year retiring. And then myself and my business partner, Greg Smith, purchased the agency from my parents. And then we do also have another minority partner, John Blystone. He had his own insurance agency down the street. He's a similar age to Greg, Kim, and I, and kind of was a great fit for him to come and merge and join with us as my dad was looking to retire. And we had another commercial producer who had been with us for about 35 years named Dan, who just recently retired last year. So we had a lot of 2 large, substantial commercial lines books that we needed, some producers to manage as they, these 2 gentlemen sunset into retirement. So John Blystone and his team came on board about 4 years ago. So many iterations, but the agency has grown substantially over the years, specifically in the last 10. We went from, I think, 11 team members to 18 now in total. So we've experienced a lot of exciting growth, and we have a wonderful team here. We're a generalist agency. Our book is kind of split about 30% personal lines, 70% commercial. We have a lot of contractors, manufacturers, wholesalers, distributors, Main Street business. And then on the personal line side, we write a lot of our business owners. We want to keep everything in-house here, one-stop shop. Kim and I focus primarily on personal lines production. And then obviously I oversee the general agency operations. And then Kim also has a piece in overseeing our marketing and communications to our clients.
So, Meg, talk a little bit about your history in the agency and kind of the evolution to you becoming agency principal.
I got my degree in social justice from James Madison in Virginia, and I was like gonna take on the world and be the change and all the things. And I got a wonderful opportunity at a nonprofit in Philadelphia, and I loved everything that I did there. We were helping senior citizens, limited income senior citizens with prescription assistance in the state of Pennsylvania primarily. And then that since expanded. And And there was a call center environment, and I ultimately became the contact center manager there. And as I started to mature and my husband and I wanted to get married, and it was like, okay, where's my life headed and how are we going to do that? And I started to look more and more at the life our parents had built for us, which was we got to see firsthand through a tremendous amount of hard work, tenacity, determination, long nights, busy days, but also with the ability to be at all of our swim meets and be the coach at our game, have some of that flexibility. So I decided almost 13 years ago to leave that nonprofit world and start as in a production role and as a producer here at Ashmead. It was an interesting transition. I had never been in sales. I had never worked in insurance. I mean, I'd heard about it my whole life, but and I had kind of risen through the ranks in this nonprofit world. So I had a little bit of like humble pie served to me because I sort of thought I knew everything as a 24-year-old, if you will. You're like, what? I could do this, no problem. And then I was quickly humbled, learning sales and being an independent agent representing, in personal lines, about 12 plus companies. There's so much to learn and you're drinking from the fire hose. And in the beginning, you don't know what you don't know until you finally do. So there was so much to learn. And so really the first 5 years were spent just building my book and selling and understanding the ins and outs of the insurance industry. As we started to talk about things to plan all along, had always been, that hopefully there'd be some sort of succession plan involved, and things were going well and I was enjoying myself and started to insert myself and have the opportunity granted by my parents to be involved more on the management side of things. And I knew that I was very interested in hopefully me being able to purchase the agency one day when they retired. But I also knew that I didn't want to do it alone. I saw the two of them be able to have each other's backs. I would like to, share this with somebody. And so kind of a quick backstory, but my partner, Greg, and I, we actually went to Presbyterian church camp together when we were 14. And, we randomly happened to call on the same commercial contractor when we were both out prospecting as producers. He worked for Federated Insurance. This was about 10 years ago. We kind of were like, wait a second, we remember each other from back in the day, and just started having a conversation. And ultimately, Greg ended up joining us as a commercial lines producer, kind of with the thought that as if things go well, and they did, that he and I would purchase the agency together, when my parents retired, which is ultimately what happened.
Yeah, I was specifically going to ask about that, about, having a co-owner and I can see there being pros and cons to that.
Sure. Mm-hmm.
For me, I'm the sole owner. And so there's pros and cons to that too, where you have to make every decision and live with that decision. And it's not always easy, but you get the final say for a lot of things. In that situation, there just has to be some things, whether let's say it's probably the most difficult is with an employee. Talk a little bit about what some of the challenges are of having, and maybe how that works. Maybe you guys have separate roles where you handle employee sides, and then that makes it easier.
My parents really gave us the opportunity. We had a long runway leading up to this purchase, and so we really had an opportunity from a management side of things to get heavily involved in the nitty gritty kind of 5-6 years before it all shook out, which gave us a lot of opportunity to learn a lot of lessons along the way, good, bad, and indifferent, and be able to sort of have the mentorship of my parents along the way. And so, there's a lot of conversations where we have to meet in the middle. We have to, agree, compromise. We have separate roles, but they both overlap. Greg kind of helps oversee commercial lines and business development, and I'm more personal lines, life, overall agency operations, IT, HR, reporting, all the fun things to keep everything going here internally. But at the end of the day, however we've been able to work it out, we have such a tremendous mutual respect for one another that even when there's a moment where we're not quite on the same page, I can't think of a time where I've walked away being like, I'm so frustrated with him. I need a break, or I can't talk about this right now. We are very, for whatever reason, able to meet each other where we're at. Like, hey, I hear what you're saying and I understand. But here's my perspective and why. And 9.9 times out of 10, we've been able to meet in the middle, wherever that is, and come up with the decision that we want to use to move forward. And I think because of that mutual respect, and there's a lot of self-awareness. Both of us have a lot of self-awareness, which I think is an incredibly important skill in a partnership, because you need to know where you may fall short, or maybe you've made a mistake. So even sometimes if one of us has done something that we're like, I don't know if the other one's going to like love that. Most of the time, if that's even come up, we're like, hey, I just want you to know this happened. And next time I think I'll run it by you first. I don't know why I didn't, or whatever the case may be. So there's kind of a lockstep involved, where just the communication is strong, and that is more critical than anything. We would be in a paralysis if that didn't work. So very grateful.
That sounds like a good setup. I've just heard of so many where it doesn't work.
We both have the same goals in mind, and we both see the same path to get there. And maybe the steps are a little bit different in our minds. I think sometimes he can be a bit of a dreamer and I can be a little more tethered to the ground. And both of us need to be pushed to come more towards the middle. Because of that, it's a good balance, because I would maybe stay with this great little team and keep it in this nice bubble for the rest of my life for fear of pushing the needle too far forward. And he might go out guns a-blazing, running too fast, and there's a happy place where the growth can happen methodically, with intention and with the right, pillars put in place to get it done.
Kim, I'm going to take a stab at it and say that it wasn't your life's plan to join the agency. So tell me how you got wrangled into this business.
You're correct. Just a quick background history on me. When I graduated Penn State, I decided to move out to California, using my degree at the time in advertising kind of marketing, worked at some tech startups, just getting my feet wet in the corporate world. Really enjoyed my time in California, was there for 3.5 years. And decided to move home. Our agency, we're in Lansdale, Pennsylvania. It's about an hour north of Philly. And, at the time I moved back from Los Angeles, I was like, no, I want to live in the city. I want to do my thing. I want to, get my own job, that sort of thing. So, that's what I did. I moved into Center City, was working at Essity as mentioned. And then the pandemic hit. It really, gave me a chance to kind of reevaluate my happiness. At the time I was doing some data analytics and more of like the nitty gritty. And I felt like I wasn't using a lot of my like interpersonal skills which are some of my strengths. And my dad was one of my biggest cheerleaders. He kept being like, Kim, I think you need to get into sales. And I had done like a 6-month stint at a tech company, cold calling, cold emailing people. And I was like, Dad, I hate it. Like, I don't want to do that. Like, it's terrible. And he was like, well, here's the thing about insurance. Everybody needs it. And so, you're educating people on what they need rather than begging people to buy something that they don't necessarily need. During the pandemic, Meg and I spent a lot of time together. Our family spent a lot of time together. It was really nice, just to kind of, quarantine together. And she, consistently was saying, I like my job. I enjoy going to work every day. Obviously there's days where I do mundane tasks and whatnot, but I was like, what a novelty. I don't enjoy my job. And it would be really nice to, go to work every day and feel like you're accomplishing things and you're helping people. And that was really another big piece that made me think, hey, this might be a good move. So what I did, I think it was the summer of 2021. I met with Meg a few times. I spoke with my parents. I did a couple ride-alongs with Meg's business partner, Greg. Thought I wanted to hone in on the commercial market. And so just sort of got to see if I'd like it, which is also another huge perk. Who gets to test run a job? And, you know, I knew I wanted to stay at my previous job through the end of the year. And so we kind of just set it up that I would start with Ashmead in January of 2022. I haven't looked back since. It's been wonderful. I just recently said to my husband, who just got a new job himself, and I said, what an amazing perk I have that I don't think I'll ever interview anywhere ever again. I get to stay where I'm at, and that's that's where I see my future, and I'm thrilled about it.
It's really hard to explain what we do to people and then make it sound interesting.
Yes.
It's just, it doesn't. But when you get in it, it's so intriguing. And that's the general consensus, you know, with I think. So what sort of things kind of drew you in to the business, and what aspects of the commercial insurance producer did you really like?
It's an ever-evolving industry. You learn something new every single day. It keeps your mind sharp. There's, you know, always more to learn, to do. Or, you know, especially in the independent market, things are constantly evolving, changing, and there's new challenges to overcome, which I think just keeps anyone driven. I think stepping into a sales role was also very enticing for me, kind of having my own success, you know, and destiny in my hands. How much effort I put in is how much success I will see. And that was, you know, something that in the corporate world, you know, just trying to climb that ladder, wasn't, you know, your own success wasn't necessarily, you know, in your own hands. So with the commercial side of things, you know, I gave a stab at it. I still have a small book.
I poached her to personal lines.
Yeah.
Okay, nice.
I did.
I did enjoy it. I think it was so interesting to me every single day, learning what different people do. I remember I walked into a machine shop and this guy was like, yeah, we make the edges that rip arcade tickets. And I was like, what? Like, so you just forget that everything that we touch every single day, somebody is making. So that was just so interesting to me. And, you know, as time evolved and it looked like, you know, Meg and our mom were doing personal lines, and then Meg knew that she needed to dedicate a lot more of her time to, you know, running the agency. She was like, I don't know why I didn't think about this before, but like, can we teach you personal lines? Can we kind of like bring you in? You know, you can do both if you'd like. And then once I sort of started to learn the personal side of the business about a year in, I realized how much more I enjoyed it, and how I think that my skill sets were better suited for it. Like I mentioned earlier, like I think my interpersonal skills are one of my strongest skill sets. And whereas, you know, that's still a sales role, but it's not that like the commercial sales was a little too like fast for me. I think, I don't know how to like, you know, put my finger on it, but I really just enjoyed like the relationship building on the personal line side of things, being someone's advisor, you know, and helping them sort of manage like some of their most valuable assets. And that's an area where I've really enjoyed, and I'm happy where I'm at.
So it sounds like Meg recruited you, you know, a little bit. Meg, what was your approach to bringing Kim on board? You know, you want any team member you bring on board, you want to see succeed. When it's family, I think there's just that extra, like, how do I really set her up for success?
Absolutely.
How did you approach that, bringing her on board?
You know, as we got closer to the point of purchase of the agency for Greg and I had been in personal lines production, so I had my book. My mom was retiring; she had her book, and we've been in business for almost 70 years. We get tons of referral business. We have a substantial commercial lines book, so we're getting also tons of referral business just from all the new business that we're writing from commercial lines. So, you know, I was like over here starting to take on all this agency management stuff and still doing all my production stuff. And I was like, I'm not sleeping, I'm not eating, you know? And I'm like, what am I going to do? Like, should I start to think about hiring a new producer? Like, I'm not going to be able to continue at this clip and live the life that I want to live. I'm watching Kim, you know, learn the ropes in commercial lines. And I'm like, wait a second over here. I'm like, they got her. I want her over here. We could grow the personal lines so much better if she could come over here and join us, and we can, you know, there'd be leads that I was turning down because I just couldn't get to them. And yeah. I was like, we're missing out on opportunity because we don't have the power, you know, on this book to meet the needs of where it's trying to grow. So I called Greg and I was like, listen, I know you have her, but I want her. And he was like, are you trying to poach her from me? Are you? And I was like, I am. He was like, all right. And I talked through why some of the things that Kim shared about why I think she would be really good and what our clients look for, you know, in the relationships that they're looking to build here in Ashmead. And I, you know, obviously I've known Kim my whole life because she's my sister, but, you know, I knew that she would very easily be able to make those connections with people. And to the responsibility factor, but we were talking a little bit the other day, you know, it's funny, like, so there's three of us and our three girls. I'm the oldest, and then we have a sister, Kelly, who's a nurse practitioner. So she just did not get into the insurance field, understandably so. And then there's Kim, who's the youngest. So like just by birth order, you know, she's always been my younger sister. So there's just a protective nature that I have towards her, no matter what. It's a part of me. I can't turn it off, you know. So I knew that when she came on board, and I also had such a great example set in my mom. My mom mentored me when I started in personal lines. Now I hope I don't cry, but like she was just by my side like every day. You know, she wasn't holding my hand, but she was there to support me and answer my questions. You know, I'd say I love, like my parents were so good like this, you know, mom, dad, do you think this would be covered? You know, whatever question the client had. Well, what does the policy say? Right. You know, the right type of training and, you know, showing me how to push myself to get leads and grow my book. And there was nothing given, but, you know, the path was well supported. Right. So I had such a tremendous example in the way that they helped me. And I, in a way, felt like I want to pay that forward to Kim, like the same level of mentorship and support that I received from my parents, you know, which was 12 years ago, or at the time, a decade ago, you know, and now they're retiring. Like I felt such a deep responsibility and connection to providing Kim with the same level of support and leadership and mentorship as she learned the ropes, just as I did. Right. So, you know, I knew that late nights, early mornings, busy days, whatever it took to get her to a place where she had all the resources and tools that she needed to be successful, to run and write her own book and grow her own book, I was going to do whatever it took to do that. You know, we've always just had like a very symbiotic relationship. It's never been like adversarial or contentious, or we never really argued. So it was very easy just to kind of fall into like, let me help you. I've always been sort of feeling like that's how I'm going to be towards you anyway. So it just was like a natural flow to support her in that. And now she's flourishing.
Kim, we'll start with you. Did you have any concerns with working with family and working with big, with big sister?
Honestly, no. You know, when I joined, my parents were still, you know, at the agency. So there was kind of touch points from all of them, but I knew, you know, the long term it would be Meg and I. But I don't know. I really didn't. Meg, I think she touched on it, you know, just in her last kind of explanation. But you know, we've always sort of gotten along. We have a lot of similar, you know, interests. We have different personalities. You know, I think one of the things that we've all, you know, we've been able to stay such a close family and whatnot. It's like we followed similar paths. I mean, Meg paved the way. I did everything she did, you know. You
didn't do everything I did, but maybe I made it smoother for you.
Okay, I just mean like it was like, you know, you swam, I swam. Sure, you played lacrosse, I played lacrosse. You went to a big state school, I went to a big state school. Like, you know, I applied to the same college she went to. Like, you know, it's just a lot of the things. But because it was, you know, she paved a good way, and it was, you know, and it looked like she was, you know, enjoying herself, I guess. I don't know. It was, you know, I had a good role model to follow. So Yeah, and I think, just there's a lot of like mutual respect, and um, trust, and so I think that those things go a long way with I guess my manager.
Yeah. Meg, how about you? Any
No, I mean,
concerns or
I'm truly being honest when I say no. I mean, it's funny because, like, again, you grow up and someone's like your little sister, and when you're growing up, 4 years is a big difference, right? There's so much, she was still in high school and or she graduated high school, I graduated college, and I was off on my young professional journey, and she's, freshman day one up at Penn State, so it's like, but slowly as time went on, that stratification of difference in life circumstances closed, and it got smaller and smaller until it's like we feel like peers, right? And interestingly, both personally and now professionally, like she is I'm a firstborn. I'm type A. I have a lot of emotions that flow through my body. I often wear them on my heart on my sleeve. It's both a strength and a weakness of mine at the same time. And Kim has always brought a level of levity to our family that is so needed. And she brings that here at work too. And quickly when she joined us, and before she came into Personalized, I started to see it in action where just this perspective she has, where she takes a moment, she takes a deep breath, she breathes, she looks at something from kind of a 360-degree view, and then she pauses, she thinks, she processes, and then she kind of comes up with what she thinks about the situation. Versus I'm a little bit more like, as I'm experiencing it, I'm reacting to as I feel it, and I've had to work on that in my, my professional career. But there's so much value to that. And I was like, and there's and then also in her data analytics backgrounds, the way that she kind of views things is different from how I just innately go in seeing things. So just right from the jump, I was so grateful to have this like kind of fresh perspective, also on a younger angle too, as the insurance industry is, I'm not saying anything that anyone doesn't know. It's an aging industry. There's a lot of baby boomers that are retiring. For a long time, we didn't really have anyone else younger working here, and that has transitioned over the years. And there's a very balanced demographic now at the agency from an age perspective, which is nice because it's really important to have the mentored, seasoned vets who have seen it all, and then it's really great to have young, fresh perspective. So anyway, really quickly, Kim showed me some perspectives that I hadn't seen or thought of, and became a sounding board for certain things that I am endlessly grateful for.
Meg, I want to, something I just kind of thought of, taking over this family agency, even though you bought it, you just didn't take over. Did you feel any added pressure taking over this family business that's been around for 60 years or whatever the number is? Yeah.
Yes. Yes. Say it again. Yes.
Did you feel like you had to, and looking at your team page, I'm assuming that, you've had, as you just kind of referenced, maybe a team that's been around a while. So did you feel like you had to prove yourself?
Yeah, it's interesting. It was many levels of that. So leading up to it, I think was the greatest apprehension that I had of like, oh boy, like so many things, like the legacy, everyone here who's depending on a paycheck, can't mess it up. There's livelihoods involved. Everyone here has a family that they're supporting with their job, and the growth and the long term and the health of the agency, like all these things. So leading up to it, it would dawn on me. Now, thankfully, having Greg with me, it was like a burden that we shared, or I shouldn't use the word burden, but just a weight, a thought, right? Yeah. An anxiety, if you will. And we would talk through that. What does that look like? What are we afraid of? What is our greatest fear? Well, if that came to be, what does that look like? How would we work through that? And so there was a lot of like scenario discussions that he and I, which always kind of helped me calm my anxieties when I'm like, okay, if the worst were to happen, which to me is like some crazy E&O issue that like takes us out or something along those lines, it's like, what would happen? What would be the next step? And so we would, talk through that a lot. And as time went on, I had been in a leadership role at the nonprofit I was previously. So I had experience managing people, and I like managing people. And I think what Kim is speaking to, like, it's something that I'm good at. It is one of my strengths. And so I knew that I looked forward to that piece of it, like managing the people, even though sometimes that can be the most stressful part, but it also can be the most rewarding as well. Over time, like, took a step back and sort of was like, it's going to take time. But at the same time, we have, like, I can't speak enough to the wonderful team we have here. We have a couple individuals who have worked here for a long time, that were really, like, in our corner and kind of helped with the transition of things from a middle management perspective. Thankfully, it wasn't like the lights went off one night and new management came in the next day. It was a long runway and everyone knew. And so there weren't any, like, big rolling changes that came out, through the last year. It's been in, like, a year and a half now. Once we really, like, assumed the role and it came to me, I was like, oh, we're good. Like, I can do this. Like, all these thoughts that I was having, like, it was like, I just had, it was fear of the unknown, really, which is, I think, the most fearful thing for anybody. And it was just like, once we got there, I like managing people. I like managing teams. I think I'm pretty good at it. I'm not perfect. I make mistakes, but I think what I'm good at doing is owning when I maybe make a misstep and saying that to the team. I'm not going to act like I'm perfect. And also, using the people here. There's tremendously intelligent individuals here, and we've made some promotions in the past year to kind of create more of a middle management team that wasn't really there before, which helped really better support both agency management and also the team, all of the account execs. So we've made some changes that have really helped better support everybody.
Last question for you both. And Kim, we'll start with you. What's your favorite part working with your sister?
I think, honestly, it's like I walk into the office and I drop my food in the fridge for lunch and I go to her desk and I say, we talk about, she's my friend. Like, it's just like, she's like, I have innate trust in her, and I know she's got my back. She's proven it in many ways. She's done a lot for me. But yeah, I think to simplify it, it's just having to get to work with one of your best friends. It's not just the fun that we have, but it's that trust, that support, and just knowing that she's got my back.
Yeah.
Meg, what
would you say? Best. Like, how do I repeat that? I don't know. Yeah, I mean, that's truly it. And it's like, it's funny because it's not that you take it for granted, but it's like you get so used to just seeing each other every day and talking nonstop that, like, when she goes away for a little bit, I'm like, so what are you up to? Like, I'm so used to being with you all the time and talking about, work and also personal life stuff. But, like, it is the honor of my life to get to run this agency and to have a family member be here. And, like we talked about earlier, this protectiveness that I have over her is, like, to see her succeed and do well, like, brings me immeasurable joy. And she's doing so well. And it's like, it feels like just, this is what it's all about, right? It's like, to be able to succeed and do well together and have fun and enjoy the friendship that we have along the way. Like, can you ask for anything more in a career? And like she said, to, like, hopefully never have to interview her anywhere else. I mean, I'll change her as best she can. I need her here, so she can't leave. But there's no greater win, in your life. So we're both blessed.
Yeah, and to think I didn't always see it.
Right.
Took me. Yeah.
Well, it's hard when you're young, and someone's saying, come work outside the city, with a bunch of people who aren't young. And then life changes.
Insurance. No.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Those were great answers. And that was a lot of fun. I'm not crying. You're crying. So, everyone, thank you for listening to today's podcast. For the best way to contact today's guest, click the episode description below.